All righty, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Patterson Report podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. And I am clearly not in my usual sports dojo today, as is demonstrated by the gigantic bird. Memorial Day weekend started a little bit early. I work for a pretty cool radio company, and we're doing a broadcast on the beach. And I was lucky enough. One of my clients is involved, so I got to head down the beach a day early. So we're coming to you live from the Delaware beaches.
Those are nice down there. I like to vacation down there.
It is nice. It's my roots are in the Jersey Shore, but with Delaware job, Delaware company, they use Delaware beaches, so it is what it is.
Hey, they're nice. Especially the small ones, like that small town kind of atmosphere vibe. They get a little crowded during the summer, but like not too crowded where you just want to stay away from everybody. Like the people are nice, food's great, it's a great atmosphere. I'll probably be heading there soon again. To be quite honest. So I love it down there. So that's awesome. That's a good way to start Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully you're here with us at the Patterson Report to start your Memorial Day weekend. We got one more day of work left, but
yeah, we'll get through it. We're gonna get through they're gonna start off as theories on how to deal with the Sixers offseason. They're gonna probably divulge into full blown, Charlie Kelly, red yarn on a bulletin board conspiracy theories. But the big question on everybody's mind, and I think the Sixers have answered it pretty clearly, but there's enough people out there that think they're posturing to pick or not to pick at the 3. If you watch the lottery, you know that it got real dicey there for a second. A couple teams jumped up higher than were expected. And if the Sixer pick fell outside the top 4, we were going to drop all the way outside the top 6 and lose the pick. Thank God we ended up at 3. We get to make the pick. The flip side of that, everybody knows I'm not a huge draft guy. I watch college basketball. I catch up and find out who fits my team. I don't remember a draft that people as a whole are less excited about than this one. And unfortunately, it's the draft where the Sixers really need to draft not only a starter, but they get impact player. And we're picking at 3, which should be, in any other circumstances, kind of a home run. I mean, think like, Tatum was, I think, 3. Jaylen Brown, I want to say, was 4 1 year. There's usually future multi-time All-Stars, borderline Hall of Famers, MVP candidate type guys sprinkled throughout that top 10. This year, however, we're picking at 3, and you could talk yourself into getting excited about guys like Ace Bailey. You could say, we're picking at 3. Let's play it safe with somebody like VJ Edgecombe. But it's a weird draft where picking at 3 doesn't feel like you're going to get your next franchise cornerstone.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I'd like to counter your argument there for draft least excited about. I don't know if you remember the 2013 draft. I looked up the year to make sure I got it right.
Was that Michael Carter Williams as the Rookie of the Year?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's the other one. You're right.
The top of that class was not so great with Anthony Bennett, Victor Oladipo. There was some dude named Giannis Antetokounmpo that was drafted 15th. I think he's doing all right, but kind of saved that class for everyone. And I think it was a draft or 2 after that Nikola Jokic got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. You're
right. They didn't even air the pick.
They didn't air the pick. It was a Taco Bell commercial. So, yeah, I mean, I think this draft is sort of like the upper end of the last couple of drafts. I think it's medium hyped. I remember last year you didn't want to get 1 last year. I think it was Zachary Ricochet, and I forget who else was up top. Alexander Sarr. They weren't really too hyped for number 1 or number 2. So I think this class is pretty decent overall compared to class of year past. It's definitely not as good as the Zion class, the Damian Lillard class. That was a long time ago at this rate, but I'd say in the middle. But, the goal is we shouldn't want to pick, but Daryl Morey's been on these podcasts and he's clearly stated that he's going to make this pick. This is a 3-player class. He's been been articulating that he's going to stick and make this pick, which I don't agree with it, but I'm just happy that we're keeping the pick because I could write a whole think piece. We could spend the next 40 minutes on why the NBA draft lottery is terrible. Because
well, I mean, you got a team like the Mavs who had a 1.8% chance at picking number one. Objectively, don't deserve to, and they will. Now you can put on your tinfoil hat and start to figure out why or how that may have happened. But you're right. They were so focused on eliminating tanking that they took away a huge piece of team building.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you got to watch any Wizards basketball this season. They were not good.
Why would I do that?
I watched a little bit because I was playing some DFS, opportunities, whatnot, shot opportunities. They were just bad, but they weren't trying to be bad. That's the point. You know what I mean? Neither were the Hornets. They weren't trying to be bad. LaMelo had injuries, and he's the cornerstone over there, and not much went right for them. But it's terrible. I mean, the Pistons, they built this somehow, but they got, looking for the word to say, but they've had non-lottery luck the past couple of years. They got Cade, but they were like top in the lottery. They were the worst team overall, and it's 4, 5, 5, 4. Like, it's unfair to these teams. Of course, they've built it out to be something, but it's hard to be invested in an NBA franchise where you get jumped by 3 big market teams in the lottery. And, fans have their concerns about that. I mean, I hope there's not an NFL lottery ever because...
Well, no, and that's the fun part to think about is, football as a sport is, I think, inherently different. Basketball, unfortunately, like the culture in the NBA is just so eroded at the moment where you have teams where it's acceptable to willingly tank. I don't think you're ever going to really see that in the NFL. I just can't picture it. You have instances where Lovie Smith will be one of the greatest anti-tankers ever because Houston had every conceivable reason to
Joe
lose
Milton
out
last year. Joe Milton in Week 18 against the Bills.
Yeah,
played them right out of Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tanking is not a problem. And, I was watching the NFL Stock Exchange. They did this exercise last week. And if there was a lottery, it was fun to look at. But they said the same thing. And I agree with them that if the NFL ever hosted a lottery, it would probably be the most viewed broadcast of the year for anything.
It'd be up there for sure.
Because half the fan bases are going to be invested. And, there's a lot riding on, hey, I need a quarterback. I need to jump up or I can't fall. It kind of seemed like a test run when Schefter tweeted that out about the NBA lottery. It kind of seemed like a test run of okay, how's the audience engagement on this? It wasn't good, so it's not going to happen.
I don't want to copy what the NBA is doing because they, and we'll get back to the draft here in a second because we did wander off course a tad. But I remember, I remember towards maybe 16, 17, 18, COVID kind of ruined it, but 16, 17, 18, the NBA was kind of peaking in a little bit. I mean, Adam Silver could seemingly do no wrong. The Warriors were a dynasty. LeBron went back to Cleveland. You had these super teams starting to form and the NBA is never going to threaten football, but they got as close as they have in my lifetime during 16, 17, 18, I would say. And to somehow squander that so royally to where you look at this season and their viewership is down at points close to 30%. The NFL should take no notes from the NBA.
No, I think that was their up point and they peaked with the bubble because there was nothing else really going on. There was some UFC, there was some golf, but basketball was just pure hoops for a couple months.
Basketball in the bubble, it was good ball.
Pure ball.
You've heard later on how damaged these guys were because they were pretty much pulled away from their families in the middle of a global crisis for, months on end. And that, when you think about it, now looking back, like, yeah, that was pretty fucked up to do to these
It's
people.
kind of
Like,
crazy looking back.
yeah. But the on-court product was spectacular because for the first time since these guys were probably in high school, it was just about hoop. Like there was nothing else.
Who was the person that made the shot that was it Mike Muscala that hit that three that gave us Tyrese Maxey in the bubble?
Yes.
Yeah.
Philly will forever be indebted to Mike Muscala.
Almost too indebted to the Thunder there. Good thing that didn't happen.
Yeah, next year they own our pick, pretty much guaranteed. So
yeah, there's some scenarios where we could go, but I don't think. I mean,
we would have to pick top 4 next year.
Yeah, bottoming out is on the table if you want to go for the future, but these guys want to keep their jobs, so like I don't think it's on the table. But
no, a tank next year would result in the front office and the entire coaching staff getting fired, and nobody's going to sign on for that.
Exactly.
Which brings me to my next question. When we're talking about the Sixers, I think we've reached a crossroads, and how they operate this offseason is going to tell us a lot about how they view it. Because I think there's a strong argument to be made for both sides of this. We've been in win now mode seemingly since 2018, probably. That was your first full Joel season. That was the Joel, Dario Saric, Ben Simmons, Ersan Ilyasova team. Since then, you've really been in win now mode, and well, you haven't won anything. And now you're kind of reaching the end of the line where when you look at the way the team's built, you have a young star in Tyrese Maxey, and you have what looks to be a potential running mate in Jared McCain, assuming he comes back from the Achilles all right. So you're looking at a potential young backcourt that could carry your team. At the same time, you have an injured Joel Embiid who, when healthy, is an MVP, and an aging Paul George who might have one magical season left in the tank. And if you're Daryl Morey and you're looking at the split in the road, to the left, it makes no sense to make this pick. You trade for guys you can win right now with and put all your chips in the 2025. To the right, you draft a guy like Ace Bailey, who's far from a finished product, but you're hoping that one day he, Tyrese, and Jared McCain can usher in the next era of Sixer basketball. So if you're Daryl Morey, are you making a left or a right?
I think you have to make a left with the most recent comings in the Eastern Conference. It looks like Giannis is moving out west. I mean, the Spurs ending with the number 2 pick and Dallas ending with number 1. I think Dallas makes their pick. But I think the Spurs could be a destination for Giannis. The Rockets could. I mean, they have a bunch of draft capital, a bunch of players. So I think Giannis is heading out west. Cleveland's in a little bit of turmoil after that loss to the Pacers. And then, of course, Jason Tatum's not playing next season, sadly, because of his Achilles tear. So yeah. I think you got to turn left with all the recent developments in the Eastern Conference, because this is one of your best chances to win. And, you know, who knows what's going to happen years down the line. I mean, nothing's a guarantee, but the coaching staff wants to win. The players want to win. I think a win would do, we've talked about this here before, a win would do a ton for Embiid inside the city, because like we said, he's not in the same level as the Jalen Hurtses, the Bryce Harpers, the Saquon Barkleys of the city. Yeah. I think he wants to get there. And I think you got to win now, man. I mean, who's going to be the competition in the East next year? The Pacers, the Cavs, the Knicks?
Well, you can't take, you can't take the Pacers and the Pacers and the Knicks are both, throwing haymakers at each other right now. So I do see your point where they're not the Celtics. The Cavs haven't proven anything to anybody. So it is easy to kind of say, oh, what are we worried about the Pacers? Yeah, I'm worried about the Pacers personally. I'm also worried about the Knicks. Both teams, as it sits, are far more talented. Like, did you watch the game last night?
I thought it was over. I was watching the Phillies game. I looked at my ESPN app, and they were up 15 with 4 minutes to go, and I turned it on in overtime because I couldn't believe it made it to overtime.
That point is what it is. I did the opposite. I watched the Phillies first and then switched over.
That's what I did.
I watched a lot of Sixers basketball throughout the year, and every year in the playoffs, when we get to the point that we're not in it, I watch these games and it looks like they're playing a different sport than we are. Like I watched that Indiana and that New York game, and I'm like, Sixers would have packed it in. We just would have. And then if you get to OT, I can't look at that roster and go, oh, this person would have done what Tyrese Halliburton did, or this person would have done what Neesmith did.
Sounds correct. I couldn't believe his stat line after the game, but
yeah,
they're not the Celtics. The Sixers don't have a shooter like that though.
No, but we feel like that. We
don't have one of those guys.
There's just something weird about this team where, like, you know, we have these talented guys. We've had shooters who are on paper as good, if not better, shooters than Neesmith. JJ Redick comes to mind. JJ Redick comes to mind. Buddy Hield was supposed to be that. Like, there's this weird culture or energy, or there's something in that team where they're not as tough and scrappy and desperate as these other teams in the playoffs. And what's weird about it is I think we could be completely healthy. We could have PG, Tyrese, Joel, and similar pieces. And I can't tell you with any level of confidence that we would still be better than the way I'm watching Indiana and New York play right now.
No, I mean, what they're doing is outright ridiculous. That's probably going to go 7, and we're going to enjoy every second of it as a basketball fan. But you just look at the Sixers and compare this team to them, and it makes sense why they're third in the lot, or they're picking third in this upcoming draft class. So, yeah. That needs more pieces, but it's hard to go out and get more pieces because the ones on expiring contracts, you don't know if they want to play here, and the ones that are on deals, you're going to have to overpay to go get. So it's really tough.
And that's kind of the thing. And I'm not. I love the Sixers as much as the average Philadelphia fan loves the Eagles. I love the Eagles too. Everybody knows this, but I would feel the same way if the Sixers won a title than I would when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So it pains me to say it, but at a certain point, I got to look at this thing and go, how much draft capital are we going to burn? How much are we going to burn trying to make Joel and PG work? Now, I'm not saying it's time to blow it up and get rid of those two guys. That's not what I'm saying.
Good.
But I do think the era of catering your entire team to Joel plus one has to stop at a certain point. That's not to say, look, if he comes out and has an MVP year this year, it shouldn't matter. But I think you got to start hedging your bets, which is why I titled it this. Like, I don't think you can keep going balls to the wall every year and just kicking the can down the road. I think if you make that Ace Bailey pick, yeah, he might not turn into himself until 2 or 3 seasons, and Joel's window might close. But I just don't know how many more years of this team you can leverage on hoping a guy on his third knee procedure is going to suddenly become the MVP again. Like, it sucks, but I almost think you have to just start treating Joel Embiid like a center.
It's tough. I was watching Sporting Logically during the week. If you haven't viewed his channel, great channel. He did a whole video on the Sixers and this exact scenario. And he compared this to the James Wiseman pick the Warriors made a couple of years back, which kind of feels like a great example. Like they were trying to bridge windows together. And as you could tell, it didn't work out. James Wiseman's no longer with the team. So like you have to be careful with how you manage this pick. And, Ace Bailey, there's some deficiencies in his game, especially with getting to the rim. I forget what the stat was. It was field goal percentage. Like close.
He's a much better shooter than he is finisher. And when you're 6'8", that's a little bit peculiar.
It is a little concerning. And I've been seeing people on social media say that Ace Bailey is one of the worst fits for the Sixers. And, I got to dive.
It's true.
I gotta dive more into things. I'm not super familiar with the college season outside of 64 team tournament, but
he's a lengthy wing who can shoot it at a high level. I don't think he's a bad fit for any team. I also don't think he's the savior a lot of people think. I mean, I've heard some Jason Tatum comps that I would like to pump the brakes on.
No, like I said, I think he's a good high level role player. That's what I put his ceiling kind of at. Maybe he's a starter, a starter who has a decent role. I'm trying to compare what that would be like for a forward position.
I mean,
trying
I
to
would
think of.
love if he turned out to be OG Anunoby.
I think that's a little on the high end. I think that might be a little higher. I'm shooting for like a little lower than that. Yeah.
Miles Bridges. I mean, we're just naming Knicks at this point. I'm just
I mean,
picking lanky role players.
I mean, Michael might work. I think that's a good one. Maybe not the same level defender, but sort of in that ballpark is what I think his ceiling is going to settle in as. But how quick he's going to hit it, that's the real thing. Like Embiid and Paul George might age out before he's productive.
I'm thinking. I mean, I'm looking at a guy like Jalen Duren is. I mean, granted, this he's H is going to be the 3 pick. He's going to be to my expectations, but like somebody like Jalen Duren for the Pistons scores it enough, rebounds at a pretty high clip, better than Ace Bailey rebounds. That would even help this team. Like shoots almost 70% from the field, 11 points, 10 boards a game. You can kind of plug him in. That would be fine. I'm not looking for Jason Tatum. I think that would even help this roster a little bit. The only reason I bring that up is because he happens to be from Sharon Hill.
That's fair. But he got to develop with his team, though. Like, there was no pressure on those guys to win. It was just go out, develop, maybe win, maybe get your city some wing stop in the process. I remember that promo. That was a funny one.
Oh, yeah.
They win, they get wing stop, and they just wouldn't win, and everyone was just memeing the heck out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He was given 3 years to develop.
We've seen what the pressure of Philadelphia could do to some of these rookies, though. Like we saw it with Markelle Fultz, and that situation was botched in a whole nother way as well. And then you have Ben Simmons, and maybe you don't want to put too much pressure on a rookie to come out and contribute right away, or it could just derail the whole process.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not sure he slots in as a starter on day one. I don't think it's beneficial. In a world where we're able to retain, Gershon Yabusele, I think he slots in as your 4 when you start the season. So hopefully Ace Bailey isn't really leaned on. He can come in off the bench and kind of learn with that second unit, which is another part of this winner hedge your bets thing because, and I'm guilty of this too. You think of the Sixers as old because of the 2 stars. Joel's always hurt and PG's going to be 35 next season. But they're really not an old team. And that's why I don't think it's wise to build as if you are. I mean, your franchise cornerstone and Tyrese Maxey just got paid for the first time. Jared McCain is only on year 2 of his rookie deal. You got guys like Quentin Grimes, Lonnie Walker, I'm missing somebody else. We had another young guy that had a great year this year. That's going to bug me. Who?
I'm trying to think. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, as soon as I see his name, it's going to drive me nuts because he was a big player for us this year.
I know you're thinking of the name.
Justin Edwards.
Yeah.
Justin Edwards was very good this year. Adam Bona showed strides. Like, do you have enough guys on this roster who are in their like mid to early 20s that could develop into something? So like they're a young team that's old at the top.
It's where you don't want to be. It's kind of rough, but it's more so you're at the end of a window and it's, do you try to kick the window open a little longer or do you close that window and start progression into a new one?
And I honestly think we're at the latter part of that. Yeah, I think the days of treating Joel and Paul George like the nucleus of your team are probably already over. I don't think Paul George's era ever really happened in Philadelphia. Joel's most certainly did. I mean, there were 3 years where you would watch the splits of when he was on and off the court and we were helpless without him. I don't think that's healthy either, especially with what I was just saying about this roster, because this Sixer team is deeper than it's been in a very long time with talent. I mean, you have Quentin Grimes can get you 20 whenever you need it. So can Jared McCain. So can Yabusele. So can Justin Edwards. Lonnie Walker can plug in. He's a really good defender. Tyrese Maxey's a star. So I don't think it's beneficial for this team to run the offense through Joel, to run the offense through PG, or to run the offseason through Joel and PG. I think it's got to be a more well-rounded approach than it's been the last 7 years.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to be more well-rounded. It's just we've seen, like I said, with the Warriors, how managing 2 windows could just go so poorly. And if you see that, they're still in another one where it's like the same thing with Jonathan Kuminga and everyone, and they're trying to still balance it. Who knows if he's going to get paid this offseason, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's tricky. With our last 5 minutes, I want to jump into what's going on across the parking lot where, a lot of people, ourselves included, were pretty worried about the Phils at one point. You had that pitiful Mets series where you get swept out of the Mets and you go right into Chicago. You lose that series, and things were looking pretty bleak. And we've won 7 in a row now. I forget what the overall's been, but we've went from, I think, second in our own division to first in the entire NL. Pitching staff's ridiculous, minus Nola. Suarez threw a gem today. So you got Luzardo pitching at a Cy Young level, Wheeler pitching at a Cy Young level. Chris Sanchez is just steady as she goes. And Ranger Suarez, who typically takes a while to come back from injury, came out red hot. Save for the bullpen and the offense that really hasn't completely come alive yet. This Phillies team, for not playing their best baseball, looks like the ceiling's very high this year.
Yeah, I mean, we panicked a little too early, I guess. I also want to shout out Mick Abel, outdueling Paul Skeens. That was epic. I mean, he was facing a terrible lineup, but take it for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth. He went out, did his job. Did you see the story today? What happened in course? What with Johan Rojas?
Yes, where he was up.
He had to go to the bathroom, I'm pretty sure, and the staff didn't believe he was a player.
Well, he stopped along the way because he posted a picture on his Instagram story of just like the picture of the ballpark, like scenically. So I think he wandered out into the seating bowl. And then an usher was like, hey, you got to get out of here. And they wouldn't let him go until Zach Wheeler had to come retrieve him.
That's ridiculous. But it's funny. Nonetheless.
It's the Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, the sweep's expected at this point. Like, I think there's one more game. I think we play tomorrow. Yeah. So, I mean, they're 8-40 at this point.
They're on pace to finish with 28 wins on the season. It would be
I don't think they could pick first.
History.
I don't think they could pick first in the draft because there's some weird rules there too.
And that I'm not sure.
You can't pick top 10 if you picked at a certain spot the year before. It's really wacky. I don't know how they do it. I don't pay much attention to that draft.
No one does. You wait till the guys come up, or
you wait till they get hype like Painter and whatnot. But I mean, the team's doing its job. They're going to have a couple more hitting opportunities coming up here. They have a series with Athletics. That park is very easy to get. Their pitching staff isn't quite there yet. Their lineup's pretty formidable, though. I think that's underrated as a whole. Rooker, Butler, Soderstrom, they're all great. And, they have some other guys hitting as well. So this will be a good test for the pitching staff in another hitter's ballpark against the better lineup. So I'm excited to see what they can do, but it should be another series win.
Yeah, I mean, when you factor in the bullpen, which is a bit of a weakness, but overall, anytime I watch this team, you feel like if the Phillies if they can put 4 on the board, you're almost getting to the point where you can turn the TV off because it's most likely going to be enough. And I would say less than 4 because the starters have been spectacular. If you look back, Jesus Luzardo has only allowed 3 runs once this entire season. He's been unbelievable. And that goes, save for one bad start. Zach Wheeler's in that same club. Chris Sanchez similarly. But the bullpen is what it is, and you got to factor in a run or 2 for the pen. Someone posted the inning by inning stats today, and the 6th inning and the 9th inning are both over a 5 ERA for the Phils. 2 innings where you don't. So it's the inning where it gets handed over to the pen, and then the inning where the pen's got to close the door are their 2 worst innings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Romano's gotten a lot better, so the 9th should be on the way down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, I mean, we're going to see the trade deadline, what they're going to do with the bullpen. I was looking up something real quick because I know we're running out of time, but I want to hit the real quick because there's one giant elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jose, unfortunately.
Yeah, that one as well. I mean, it stinks that the circumstances seemed like he was trying to get his body healthy. I get that. Health is wealth and it's the most important thing. But the
Yeah.
way he kind of did it left a sour taste in my mouth. He went in, cleaned out his locker, talked to absolutely no one, and just left.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. And, all these guys, I mean, I've listened to a couple of, Talking Baseball is a pretty good pod. I've listened to, I think Mark DeRosa said something about it. Like these guys, it's so, the MLB makes it so crystal clear with the substance list of what you can and cannot have. And what I didn't know is they're not pop drug tests. These are scheduled drug tests throughout the season. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's ignorance. And I like Jose Alvarado a lot. I mean, I think people are making this into way more than it needs to be. I mean, it's a guy who got pops for putting the wrong thing in his body. It sucks. I get it. He's not a villain.
I mean, they're making it more than it is because he can't pitch the postseason. Like, that's the big thing.
Yeah, no, it sucks from a baseball perspective. And from a baseball perspective, I think he deserves a lot of criticism. But there's people who are like, anybody on this app who wants, Jose Alvarado back next year, you're a sick person, da-da-da-da-da. Look, he didn't drive a school bus off a bridge, all right? He took steroids. It sucks. It's annoying. I mean, he threw 101 pre-roids. He still threw 101 here. So I do think, like you said, it was taking a weight loss drug that he's not allowed to take. But he had all the information available to tell him that he wasn't allowed to take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a windy road down. That's the only way to put it. But like we said, it stinks that he's suspended. They might have to trade some premium resources at the deadline again for some bullpen help that didn't pan out last year. And, premium relievers are expensive, and we're going to have to be in the market for another one.
I know, it sucks. And all right, this is the last thing we'll talk about.
I've been waiting all episode.
Some people have pitched the idea of a certain starter who's had a lot of success in the pen prior. Well, look, Painter's going to be a stud. Nick Abel's already thrown at the pro level. Why don't we just move Suarez to the pen? Look, in the playoffs, I will have that discussion because it should be win at all costs. Ranger's not a rookie. He's not a new guy. He's been a Cy Young contender. He has earned the right to be a starter in the regular season. He shouldn't get bounced back and forth to the pen. He's beyond that. He's too good for that. Moreover, we're going to try to keep his ass around. So the last thing I want to do in a contract year is shove him to the bullpen when he's earned his way out of it. So I think during the regular season, that conversation's a non-starter. Now in the playoffs, when we shrink to a 3-man rotation, I will have that discussion because I think that's almost where he needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. I thought we were going to talk about tush push. I'm not going to lie, but we'll get into that maybe shortly. But I think you can move him to the bullpen now if you give him a new contract. He's not going there without a new contract. I don't blame him at all for that decision. So pay the man. He's been good coming back. I mean, if he just needs to stay away from injuries, which you could say that for everybody, but injuries really derailed his season last year, and he was on a crazy pace before that, and it looks like he's kind of picking up right where he left off before that back injury. So hopefully he could regain form. But yeah, like you said, postseason, I'd love him in the pen. He's clutch. We know that. Regular season, I think you got to start him. But if you want to move him to the pen, pay him.
Pay the man. Agreed. All right. Last minute. Tush, push it up. Go nuts.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I have a gripe here. I don't know if you have the same gripe as me.
The name sucks.
The name. It's not about the name. It's about the vote. It's about what happened. It's about who voted no. You know exactly where I'm going to go with this.
Yes, because the Colts were not on our side. Go fuck yourself, Shane Steichen.
I'm not even talking about our previous coaches because they're the owners that voted on that. The coaches didn't have much say. Also, R.I.P. Jim Irsay. But it's the Bills. You ran the play the second most amount last season, and you're voting to ban it over player safety. Sean McDermott, where was the player safety when it mattered?
Theirs was egregious. So was Frankie Louvu, who went
Yeah,
on
but
that.
he's at least a defensive player and didn't run it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, defenses don't like it. I get it. It's that's understandable, but
Yeah, but he was on
you
some
ran it the
bullshit
second
show
most.
talking about player safety. When you go back to the Commanders game, he was launching himself helmet first over the line.
I understand that, but I also understand hating the play because you don't use it and you go against it, and it's, you could have that discussion. The Bills is the one that just put me over the top because you run it so much. Where was that player safety when you failed to execute against the Chiefs in the playoffs? Where was it then, Sean McDermott? I mean, come on, man.
That's
I
just
don't
being a
want to. I don't
hater.
want to see them running it. I want the Eagles to come out in Week 10 on Monday night. I don't care. 1st and 10, push. I don't care. That's what I want.
I wouldn't put it past Nick, to be honest.
QB Neal, push.
The one of the Jordan Mailata had a great press conference about it, and I love him so much because they were like, "Oh, what are they talking about getting rid of?" Well, then you can't push Jalen. No, he won't push Jalen. That's not going to like. And he's so right because look, if you want to ban the tush push, that's all well and good. Get ready for Ty Robinson at fullback. Like we have options here.
Look, I respect the teams that voted against it, and I respect the teams that go out to stop it. The Jaguars, they stopped it twice in a game against us, and the Buccaneers have the defensive line with Vita Vea and their new draft pick, who's like
400 something pounds.
He's the heaviest player in the NFL. You know, if the tush push comes out, he's going to be right over center. He's going to be right over Cam Jurgens, right
That's
next
fine.
to Vita Vea.
Bring that on. That's what I want.
I want fair comp. I respect the teams that voted for it or voted against it. I mean, I have ultra respect for the Lions. They are the only team that the Eagles play this year that voted to keep the play. They want the smoke, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, no, I respected that too. So
that also affects them. There was a lot of situations where Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs got pushed forward by the offensive line, and they, you got to respect it.
Yeah, so tush push lives. I would like to go back to calling it the brotherly shove, but that's not
22-10, by the way. Same score as the Packers game.
Yeah. So Packers are haters.
Oops.
But all right, for this week, I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. This is the Passing Report. We'll see you next Thursday.